So there's this article that keeps popping up on my Facebook feed. I think two of my Facebook friends shared it. It's called "I was a Muslim in Trump's White House, and I lasted 8 days." Now, from this title, this title is very provocative because it seems like she's saying from the title that because she's a Muslim, um, she was let go, or she was laid off, or she was fired from Trump's administration. I mean, because she's a Muslim, because of the migrant ban. So, wow, I mean, is Trump firing Muslims now? Let's see. In 2011, I was hired straight out of college to work at the White House and eventually the National Security Council. My job there was to promote and protect the best of what my country stands for. I am a hijab-wearing Muslim woman. I was the only hijabi in the West Wing, and the Obama administration always made me feel welcome and included. Oh, good for you. Like most of my fellow American Muslims, I spent much of 2016 watching with consternation as Donald Trump vilified our community. Despite this, or because of it, I thought I should try to stay on the NSC staff during the Trump administration in order to give the new president and his side a more nuanced view of Islam and of America's Muslim citizens. I lasted 8 days. Oh, because she spoke out, I guess she was fired, right? When Trump issued a ban on travelers from 7 Muslim-majority countries and all Syrian refugees, I knew I could no longer stay and work for an administration that saw me and people like me not as fellow citizens, but as a threat. Okay. The evening before I left, bidding farewell to some of my colleagues, many of whom have also since left, I notified Trump's senior NSC communications advisor, Michael Anton, of my departure. Since we shared an office, his initial surprise asking whether I was leaving government entirely was followed by silence, almost in caution, not asking why. I told him anyway. Oh, okay. So now we found out that she left out of her own will. You see how manipulative these journalists are? They make it sound like saying that she was fired because she has this ridiculous headscarf on, okay? But actually, she left it her own will. The Trump administration did not ask her to leave, and I would probably think that they wouldn't, because why would they? If she's doing a good job, then there's no reason for her to leave, but there's no reason to fire her, which would mean that they didn't see you as a threat, did they? I told her I had to leave because it was an insult walking into this country's most historic building every day under an administration that was working against vilifying everything I stand for as an American and a Muslim. Okay. I told him that the administration was attacking the basic tenets of democracy. So let me get this straight. So she's an American, I'm guessing. So she's an American citizen, which means that those Muslim countries are not her countries because she's American. So America should be her country. But as a Muslim, she has to choose between keeping to America's interests, which is making sure that terrorists and other criminals are not entering the country, and as a Muslim, or these people can enter the country as long as they're Muslims, basically. Okay, well, seems to be a difficult choice for her because, it wouldn't be a difficult choice for me because I'm an American citizen and I'm a Chinese American, and if China does like any kind of shit that's remotely similar to this kind of shit, both me and the rest of my family would be like, yeah, shut the borders of China, okay, fuck this shit, basically. Because these people don't deserve to be here, okay? Because when we came here, we came here out of full humility, okay? We came here knowing that they had every single right to shut us out, basically. They had every single right to say no. Doesn't matter what reason, it could be because they're racist, it could be because they think we look ugly, maybe it's because they think we're a liability. it doesn't fucking matter, okay? It's their country. If we want to go in, they have to say. But no, I mean, these people are entitled. These people are spoiled. These people are literally saying, I have the right to enter your country. And if you say maybe the policy isn't perfect, maybe the policy sucks, but you know what? I just don't feel like letting you guys in. Whatever. I just don't feel like it. Okay. I don't feel comfortable about this. So temporarily, why don't you stay where you are? And I'll think about it after about how to let you guys in such a way that I'm comfortable with. No, this is un-American. This is bigotry. It apparently it's what everywhere else does, but if it's America or Europe, then it's bigotry, basically. Okay. I told them that the administration was attacking the basic tenets of democracy. I told them that I hope that they and those in Congress were prepared to take the responsibility for all the consequences that would attend their decisions. He looked at me and said nothing. Now this is interesting. So I think she's interpreting his reaction to her as in, oh, I got you. You know, what you gonna say? What you gonna say, bigot? What you gonna say? Working for a Nazi, working for Hitler, huh? You can't say anything, can you? Well, that's guilty by not admitting, basically. But this person is probably trying to be nice to her. This person probably has his own opinions about the whole thing. You know, maybe if this person had a less functioning prefrontal cortex, he's going to tell this bitch that, you know what, if you don't like it, if you don't like working here, feel free to leave, basically. Like, we're not going to like put you guys in jail, but you can leave, basically. You know, it's just that we just don't feel comfortable letting a lot of these people in because we saw what happened in Europe. And you know what? It's not that we're just gonna permanently ban any immigrant. It's not that we're gonna permanently ban the Muslims. It's just that we have to sit down and really think about how to filter out the people who are going to basically create problems in society. That's all the whole thing is, basically, you know? Well, okay, let me not speak too soon, okay? Because let me not give Trump too much credit because, you know, I'm not a fan of the person. I mean, I like some of what he does or some of what he says, but who knows? I mean, politicians, they lie and they manipulate the masses and it's all about power. I mean, you know, I really haven't seen any politician that really works for the people, at least all the way through their term. You know, it's all about struggling for the powers for themselves or for their administration or for their party, all that crap. So I'm not saying that they're doing this definitely because it's out of good intentions. It's not that the people on the left are saying, oh, you know what, you know, this filtering thing, yes, of course, that's reasonable. Okay, of course, we should filter out people who might create a problem in our society, but let's talk about how to do that effectively. You know, maybe we should create a law like, you know, you have to have a sponsor even if you're a refugee. Maybe we should, you know, basically be in contact and be more connected with individual organizations and private people. And if any of those people are willing to sponsor anybody from coming to the borders, even if they're not like a big company who have these power to change your visa status, you know, just individuals, right? Just individual organization, let's say that from individual charities, they think that they have enough resource to sponsor somebody, an immigrant. They can do it, and we'll let them in. Once you're in, if you're a migrant, once you're in, you have a certain amount of period in order to prove that you are going to be beneficial to our society. And this could be a number of ways. For example, you contributed, like you work and your boss says that, yes, this person is a valuable worker. Or if you're a refugee and you've shown that you're actively going to school, you are trying to take advantage of the good things in the American society. You get yourself educated, you're trying to find a job, you're trying to contribute something to society, you know. And of course, during these periods, you cannot have committed any crime, or I mean, crime up to a certain level, like serious crime, like theft or above, or you'll be deported. Those things. Like I would be full on board with the liberals on that. They're not talking about that. They're just saying that any kind of blockade of migration, if you even talk about closing your doors, even temporarily, if you even say, you know what, how about right now, because we don't have a good enough system to put in place, let's just shut our borders temporarily and then develop a better system and see if that works. Even if you mention this, they will say you are a bigot, basically. Even though this is what every other country would do. Every single other country other than the West would do this, basically. And here's the thing that really gets me, okay? Which is that people don't seem to understand that every single charity that we do, every single good thing that we do, even on an individual basis, is hinged on the idea of the golden rule. It's basically the idea that, this person is good, or good over a threshold by default, before I know that this person's bad, right? Innocent until proven guilty. And I assume that when I help this person, and if I ever run into this person again, if I don't know this person, and I have similar troubles, this person is going to help me. That is the assumption. Of course, most time in our life, there's the overfiring effect. Like, you don't actually know if you're ever going to see this person again, and you're probably not actually going to get the direct benefit. You're not going to get any benefit back. You're just helping to feel good, and that's it, basically. But why would you help somebody who you are sure that this person will not do the same for you? Why would you do that? I mean, okay, if you're a freaking saint and you want to do it, that's fine, but it would still be stupid. It's because, even if you don't mind, even if you don't care, you don't give a shit, okay, this person is going to do the same thing to other people. Wouldn't you give a shit then? Wouldn't you care about how people around you feel when you know that you've helped somebody who goes around and take advantage of other people without giving anything back, or you won't give anything back? So why would you help that person? Why? I'm just wondering. So if you know that every other country, every other nation, every other culture is going to do this, if you know that if the situation were in reverse, the Americas, North America, and Europe, most of Europe, they are in a shithole right now. Okay, so their economy is not very good. They're ruled by dictators, and then there are all these extreme groups, Nazi or some shit, and they are actively committing terrorism. I mean, of course, most of it will be towards their own people. That's the same everywhere too. But the Middle East is in prosperity right now. Let's just assume, okay? Let's just assume that they're being prosperous. They have the best method right now of dealing with things. They have democracy. They have scientific development. That's better than pretty much everywhere else. And they're willing to accept immigrants to even improve those things, basically. So they're letting in immigrants, and they say, you know what? If you're super duper smart and if you've shown that you're productive, please come in and keep our dominance going with scientific development. Okay, so they're doing that, and then they found out that at least a couple of the Middle Eastern countries found out that it wasn't a good idea, because some of these let's just say Westerners. Okay, Westerners. Let's just call them, I don't know. Let's just say they're Christians. Let's say they're all Christians or whatever. These Christians, let's just say that they're doing like some sort of crusade. Let's say they're not committing suicide. Let's just say that they're crusading against people with like swords, and they're just like, like 1,000 years ago, we were fighting like Muslims, right? And we're going to do that again, and let's just pick up a freaking sword and be Knight Templar and just hack people to pieces, which is what they did like 1,000 years ago. And what do you think these Middle Eastern countries are going to do? Basically, what do you think? Do you think they're going to say, well, poor people, and we should let more of them in? Or do you think they're going to say, you know what, fuck this shit, okay? If you're gonna do this shit, we're not gonna let you in anymore, Okay, I mean, even if this is detriment to our scientific development, but this is far worse. Okay, you can't just come into our country and start hackling people to death. You can't do that. And I'm sorry that we're committing a crime of guilty by association, but this is a lesson that you need to learn. Okay, you need to go and fix your own shit. Think about what your country is doing. Think about how you're participating in this whole thing before you come back. Okay, so yes, sorry, maybe some of you are good people, but go back to your country and fix your own shit first before you come into our country. And my parents immigrated to the United States from Bangladesh in 1978. Okay, and strove to create opportunities for the children born in the States. Well, same as my parents. My mother works as a cashier and later started her own daycare business. My father spent late nights working at Bank of America and was eventually promoted to assistant vice president of its headquarters. From here, I can already tell that her father is the primary financial provider for the family, whereas in my family, actually, it's pretty even between my parents. I mean, my mother was laid off a couple years back. I don't know when, and my father just freaked the fuck out, basically. And he was just, oh, we can't keep our house anymore, basically. Yeah. And my mother actually had to comfort him, you know. So my mother was basically playing the role of the caregiver, the caretaker, the housewife, and contributing half of the financial situation in my family. So this was one of the reasons why I used to be a feminist too, because it's just this is how I was influenced from that. How I see what my mother does is basically almost twice as much what my dad does. And of course, my dad does a lot of stuff too, but a lot of it is based off of his own, like, you could call it maleness, and I'm not gonna call it like toxic masculinity. Okay, I don't even know this term, but basically it's just this idea for him to be more ambitious. Like he wants to gain a higher social status, basically, you know, like he wants people to respect him, he wants to be the boss, that kind of thing, you know. This whole thing was very much like coming from like the male competitiveness, right? I mean, so it's out of his own doing, basically. Like my mother didn't pressure him to do that. My mother just like, just stay at your own job is good enough. But my father kept on, no, I want to start my business, you know, I want to be my own boss and nothing. This is just a situation in my family. I'm not trying to generalize, but this is why I used to be a feminist. Okay. Her father started pursuing PhD, and but he was killed in a car accident. Oh, I'm sorry. That is unfortunate. Okay, so when she was 12, she started wearing her hijab. It was encouraged in her family. It's a good thing that she admitted this, but it was always her choice. Okay, well, let me just say something about this. Okay, yes, it is her choice. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not her choice. Okay, but encouraged. I mean, family pressure is a lot. I mean, like, my family encourages me, and putting it lightly. I mean, they sort of pushed me and to marry a Chinese guy. It's basically saying, you know, you should marry like soon, as you know, because you're getting older. And of course you should have kids, and your husband should be Chinese, basically. And yes, it's still my choice, you know. They eventually accepted it. That is my choice to basically say, I don't feel comfortable with that. And it's not that, you know, Chinese or not Chinese, it's just that from what I've seen, like, these people, they're too traditionalist for me. Like, it's too much pressure on me to play, like, the traditional role. I don't want to do that, and I also don't want to future husband if I ever get married. Me doubly feel bad, because I feel like I don't want to do this, I'm not good at this, but now you're doing this, and I'm not doing this, it's unfair. You see what I'm saying? Still, like, because of the encouragement, air quote, I went and I lived with a guy that they want me to marry for like 3 weeks, basically. And, you know, encouragement, right? So I said, you know what, I'll do it. And after a week and a half, I wanted to leave. But anyways, I mean, he's a nice guy. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I just don't feel like that was for me. So if she was encouraged to do this, I mean, it's pretty clear. I mean, there's a lot of social pressure. They're saying, like, you know, if you don't do it, okay, like, we're not going to cast you out of the house. You're not going to be not our daughter anymore. That's basically like her choice. I mean, so yes, she had a choice because of that. I mean, you're gonna still gonna be our daughter. We just really don't like. We're gonna look at you and gonna be like, you know what? You should wear a headscarf. You're Muslim. By the way, during the Bush era, I was really, really, really sympathetic towards the Muslims. Okay, I'm just gonna lay it out there, um, because this was during a time where the Muslims I've encountered, actually Iranians and some Arabs and some Indians, basically. Like these are the people that I met, and I met a lot of them, and I was very sympathetic towards them because they were really sort of afraid during the Bush era. Okay, they were. I mean, they don't want to tell you where they're from. Like for example, like Iranians don't ever say they're Iranians. They're just saying like they're Persians or something. They hope that you don't know where that is. And let's say an Arab would not say like they're an Arab. They would say like I'm from Dubai, and they hope that you don't know where that is, right? And typically, like around the average American, they don't know geography. Like they don't even know geography of their own country, so they don't know geography enough to know where you're from. And they don't usually ask further. So they're just kind of be like, oh, that's interesting. That's exotic. I don't know where that is, but oh, okay. You know. So I was really sympathetic towards them, and they were not spoiled. At least this is not my perception. Like they were really good people. They really just kept their head down and worked hard, basically. And that was what I respected because that's basically what my family went through. It's what a lot of Chinese people, a lot of Asian people go through on a daily basis. I mean, we see things like affirmative action that works against us, and yet we just like, you know what, this is the way it is. This is how America is. Rather than complain about it, let's just study harder. This was like basically the cultural thing in these Asian cultures. And that is what I respect. And it's not that I'm saying like you shouldn't speak out about it. Generally speaking, for an average person, it's much more virtuous in my opinion. The amount that you complain should be very small compared to the amount that you actually contribute to society, and generally that's by working. That's just my opinion. Okay, so this is what I perceived of from most of the Muslims. And you know what? The Muslims who work in my institute, it's the same thing. I mean, they do it too. So I'm not trying to overgeneralize, but it's just that now I'm seeing shit like this basically, and this kind of shit doesn't exist during the Bush era. Okay, now I'm seeing this, and look, I don't care if this bitch is a Muslim. Really, this is being spoiled. She's being a spoiled bitch. This is how it is. It has nothing to do with your religion, okay? And yes, your religion can be criticized as much as any other religion, but I'm just saying that you are complaining. You can't know or understand where you've been if you haven't been a part of. Well, I don't work in government, and this was actually a conversation I had with somebody else who said, "Oh, you don't know, until you actually work in government facilities." Well, technically, I do work for government indirectly because I'm funded on government projects, and these projects are essentially saying you have to produce something that benefit us, basically benefits the government project, or you won't be funded. So basically, you can work on your research or whatever, but in the end, the money comes from some program that you produce, which will benefit the government, basically. So, and yes, I do know about the corruption. Even working, around it, even working on sort of slightly outside and not in it. So I can't imagine like what is it working inside, but I have a pretty good idea. Trust me. Okay, inspired by President Obama, and okay, this is something I want to say too. I was an Obama supporter. Okay, I was during 2008, and I love anomalies. I love diversity. I mean, when I see a black president, I was just like, okay, that's interesting. I mean, if this person really deserved it, yay. That is, I guess you could call that progressivism. I mean, even though so what, right? But it's an anomaly. Anomaly is, it's nice. Anomaly is part of nature. Like if there's no anomaly, things wouldn't be interesting. So I was a supporter of him. I thought he was well spoken. I thought he really cared about the people, and I liked his healthcare reform. I mean, not completely like it, but I like the fact that he's trying to push through something that was a huge deal in America, and he's trying to make things better for people. Okay, so I was a supporter of him, and it's now that I think back, I couldn't believe it. I really don't want to think about it, but when I do, I just really couldn't believe Americans became insane under his office for the past 8 years. It just progressively became more and more insane. They're just not becoming reasonable people anymore. They just became a bunch of whiners. And no, like, this is also another thing too. People say it's the millennial or not. Really, I never saw this kind of thing like during the Bush era. And then we're millennials. You know, we're in our 20s during the Bush era too. And people were not so complaining, really. I mean, we complain on a personal basis, that's okay, but not like this. So I really don't perceive this as a millennial problem. This is really just like a social political problem. This is really what I'm seeing because I'm really seeing that after the Democrats took office, they just went to work with the media and the people that they could to make Americans insane in their benefits, basically. So really, I would have voted for Trump if you know, his model, instead of saying "Make America Great Again," is "Make America Sane Again." I would totally vote for that person. Make America sane again. And if he managed to do that, it would already been a big accomplishment because everything else is probably not going to matter too much in the long run. And what I mean by that is that it's not going to change much. Okay. So she kept going, and she went to West Wind and worked for it, and okay, and then she's saying, oh, you know, how competent she was, and blah blah. And I have to say though, this is just a suspicion of mine. I'm sure she worked very hard, but she doesn't bring this up. But she could have gotten those positions because of affirmative action. She's a woman, she's a minority, and she very well could have gotten those positions partially from affirmative action. Okay. Okay, so 3 American Muslim students killed in Chapel Hill home by Islamophobe. Yeah, well, there were also Chinese people killed in Oakland just a couple of years back by some black dude who basically went around and say, oh, these Chinese people are taking our jobs, and he just basically beat them to death. Does it make it to the news? No, of course not. Only if you are on a Chinese website. This is unfortunate. Okay, this is unfortunate, but this is society. They're bad people. People get killed. Okay. Anyways. Okay, so living in. Yes, I'm not a fan of evangelical Christians either. I mean, one of the things that really annoys me about this whole thing, thanks liberals, is that now, because they have been criticized, we have now these right-wing Christians jumping on board, saying shit like, oh, a Christian would never do this. Jesus taught us blah blah. It's because of their religion. Our religion is so much better. See, this just proves it. You know, like, what did I tell you? Our nations are founded by Christian principles, and it's because of Christianity that they want to come to the West. It's because it's fucking annoying. It's like, no, you're totally wrong. Okay, like, it's not because of your religion. Jesus Christ. I mean, please get yourself educated on the actual history in the West. I mean, the West improved despite Christianity. It's not because of Christianity. I mean, Christianity, the Catholic Church, which was basically the church that ruled almost all of Western Europe, they did whatever they could to blockade every single step forward. Every single progressivism, they say, no, this is wrong, you know, it's anti-Christian, you're a heretic, let's burn some people, let's persecute some people, you can't do this. Every single scientific discovery, they tried to prevent it. Every single humanistic progress, they tried to prevent it until they just couldn't do it anymore. And they just go like, oh, okay, well, yeah, we should reinterpret what Jesus said, and we should interpret the Bible. Let's just look at those nice phrases, you know. Let's look at that and see how that somewhat sort of kind of goes with science. Yeah, yeah. See, so this proves it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is exactly what the Muslims did. I don't want to argue theology because it just goes down to a really muddy sort of dirt that you don't want to get yourself into. Anyways. Okay, so over the Obama years, right-wing websites spread abundance of absurd conspiracy theories and lies targeting some American Muslim organization individuals, even those that serve in government. They call us terrorists. Blah blah. Okay, source, honey? I guess not. Oh, and by the way, I just had a Facebook discussion with somebody the other day, and they were saying like, well, Trump is the biggest liar, blah blah. Look at PolitiFacts, and so I just kind of went like, well, okay, I'm gonna look at them, and I looked at every single thing that Trump said, okay, and I look at basically how they scored it, and immediately I know that's bullshit. I mean, they got all those things from the mainstream media, basically. And since the mainstream media is heavily biased against Trump, of course Trump is going to be the biggest liar. And some example would be the thing that he said about Sweden, okay? And then this is basically how they judge whether he lied or spoke the truth. If he got some dates wrong, if he got some percentage wrong. So let's say if I were to say, oh, I think 90% of the rape was committed by a migrant in Sweden, and actually the statistics showed that it's 80%, then PolitiFacts is going to say that I'm a big fat liar or something, basically. They're going to say that. Whereas if Hillary Clinton were to say women make 77 cents to a man's dollar, they're going to say that that's true, basically, because that is in the statistics. So you get an idea how they actually scored the shit. Trump first called for a Muslim ban, reports of hate crimes against Muslim spiked. I mean, I don't doubt this, but once again, like a Chinese proverb said, one hand does not make a slapping sound, okay? Just instead of like blaming it on the white people, you should reflect first. You should think about, is there something that you could do that could have prevented this? Is there something you could do to make people like you better? This would be the number one thing that you should think about before you point fingers. But no, it's a hate crime. Okay, so throughout 2015, 2016, yeah, honey, this was the year where basically Americans went fucking crazy, okay? Like, I'm just seeing crazy Facebook feeds. Of course, she's going to say that American history is not without stumbles and proven the nation's only made it more prosperous and resilient through struggle, compassion, and inclusiveness. That's why my parents came here. That's a big leap, isn't it? You seem to be admitting that your country was worse off from these perspectives. And yet, when people criticize your country, certain things, maybe something related to the Islamic culture, it's racism, basically. Yeah. Okay, well, and here's another thing, too. I know for a fact that most Muslim countries, I mean, especially the more extreme Muslim countries, the extreme Islamist countries, I know that they have a problem with Israel. And you know what? Again, I'm gonna try to be nonpartisan about this as much as possible. I have my problem with the American Jews in particular and how they perceive the situation too. But I'm just saying that when you talk about Israel and when you talk about Jews with them, they will say something like, "Look, I don't have a problem with Jews. I have a problem with the Israeli policy, and there's against the Palestinians, against the Muslims." In the Israeli state and things like that, and if you ask them about the fact that there's so many Muslim countries that ban Israeli Jews, they're gonna be like, well, the situation's complicated, but you know what, the Israeli army, they attacked the Palestinians, and it's just they're being inhumane, they're and abusive with their power. And so maybe they should be banned. Maybe Israelis shouldn't come to our country because they hate us anyways, right? They would say something to that effect. I wonder what she would say about that, really. I wonder how she would feel about that situation. I wonder how she would feel if, let's say, the Israeli Jews, they come and say, you know what, this is anti-Semitism, basically. Well, I mean, of course, they do say that. Like, this is anti-Semitism, that you're not allowing us to enter your country. And sometimes they enter the country because of jobs, sometimes because they were visiting friends, sometimes because they, let's say, they're just passing by through some of their travels, sometimes because they're tourists, and they're saying, you know what, you're being anti-Semitic by not allowing us in. And of course, she's going to say, oh no, it's not anti-Semitic, it's just politics, and yeah. What would you say about that situation?